So it is quite literally a dark and stormy night. So I have taken you to the place where I actually saw something I would say is paranormal. It's actually just a park. You can see out the front window, but you can't because it's too dark. It's the river down there. Just the perfect setting to talk about paranormal things. I decided one time to try to meditate, and the meditation that I tried proved to me that anybody can see them. Who are they? What are they? Maybe you got to decide that for yourself, what you think they are. I'll tell you what I think I saw. They sure look suspicious. They look like those things from the photos, sort of gray with dark black eyes. But I've never taken a drug in my entire life. And by drug, I mean illegal drug. I don't mean a medicine. Never drank a drop of alcohol. I've never smoked a cigarette or anything else for that matter. So, the meditation that I tried right here at this very spot, right here at the park in Belpre, was very simple. And it doesn't mean that the meditation itself is bad. But it does mean that if you put yourself in a certain frame of mind, if you separate yourself from yourself and observe yourself, something, whatever it is, and you'll have to decide what that is for yourself. I can't tell you. Something can appear. If you sit quietly and try the meditation that Roy Masters tells you to try on his radio program, The Foundation for Human Understanding. And they did say it's not uncommon. Sometimes when you sit still enough, that whatever it is that's tormenting you in your life, the thoughts that plague you, the entities, whatever they are, sometimes you see them as literal faces. That's what I did. It only happened one time, and it's not that the meditation itself is bad. You sit down and you just realize that you are not your own thoughts. You realize that you are separate from the forces that are constantly seeking to influence you. You sit back and you realize that you can observe as a third person. And I don't mean coming out of your body. Hi, Gloria. You definitely don't want to try to come out of your body, if that's truly possible. I would never recommend that. But you can simply realize that the thoughts going through your head have been put there from without. That most of the thoughts that you think you're thinking are not your own. So when you sit still enough, those thoughts seem to separate from you. It's not that you're going away from yourself, it's that you're seeing every thought that has influenced you, every bad behavior, every compulsion, every bad desire, everything that has plagued you is now not you anymore. And so it seems to just make sense that our minds would put a face on it. Kind of like looking into a cloud and seeing the faces in the clouds. In my life, I'm not one who's seen a lot of paranormal things, but we have had 2 prior experiences. One as a kid, it's not a story I tell often, but it's interesting because when I saw something as a kid, it's interesting that at almost the same age my kid saw something. Very interesting, isn't it? When I was 6 years old, it's either 6 or 7, I can't remember. I think it was 6. I went into my cousin's house for a birthday party. Remember it quite vividly. And there was a closet just inside the dining room where the door going into, you go through the side door into a dining room, and on the other side of the dining room was a laundry room, and the door was one of those folding doors, the ones that crinkle. And one day as I was going in there was no one else around me, but I remembered as today at 42 years old, like it happened yesterday. I saw a red eye and something that looked very much like a dog snout coming out at face level, and a snarl. I heard the snarl, and then the door that I saw open before the snout came out closed. Now that room wasn't big enough for a real person to even stand in there. So what did I see? I never saw it again there or anywhere else. What was it? I don't know. I'll let you decide that for yourself. Now, I was about 6 or 7 years old when I saw that. Now, when my oldest kid was 5 years old, not far from that age, she was in my bedroom. She'd, toddled off a little bit or whatever. Just kind of was in there trying to watch TV. We were in the living room, Becca and I. And together we hear a big thud. Alarmed, we jump up out of our seats. We run down the trailer to the other end of the trailer. We lived in a small trailer at the time. Laying on the floor on her back is my 5-year-old. Now, she's 18 now. It's been quite a few years ago. And we asked her, what was that sound? She said, the TV fell on me. Well, I look up, and the TV's not on her. The TV's sitting on the dresser. I said, what do you mean the TV fell on you? She said, Dad, the TV fell on me. I said, are you hurt? She said, no, Dad, I'm not hurt. I said, well, why isn't the TV on top of you? She says, Dad, this woman in red, she had a red dress on. She picked up the TV and she said I would be all right. I said, what woman with a red dress? We looked around, kind of a little disturbed, as you could figure. And she says, Dad, she said I'll be all right. And she went out the window and she pointed to the window. Now, trailers, because of their skirting that goes around them, they're very high off the ground. And on top of that, the window was closed and locked. And on top of that, we had a bed pushed against it. No one had been through that window. But she was still laying there. The TV was back on the dresser. There's no reason for her to lie. She wasn't the kind that just made up stories all the time. She just wasn't like that. She's a bit autistic. Not as autistic as my second daughter, but she's autistic. Behind in her classes. She's not the kind to just make up stuff. So she saw the woman in red dress that picked up the TV off of her. And it wasn't one of these flat TVs like we have today. It was, tube TV. Well, Pablo, she was 5 and she's 18 now. So that's 13 years ago. And we used to live on the West Virginia side. We live in the Ohio side now. But right here in this very spot, right here at this park where I'm sitting in my car right now, it's late, it's wet. Don't like to disturb my family by making these videos at home. You know, they want to sleep. Hi, Jonathan. So I decided I would come here and make a video because I can't go to sleep yet. This is my night off. But I figured it was a rainy night. This would be a good night to talk about those experiences. And I know some other people that have seen some very interesting things, and maybe you have too. I never discount a first-hand story. Who am I to say whether you saw something or not? I wasn't there. And even if I was there, I'm not you, so what you saw in your mind, I might not have seen. I don't recommend pursuing these faces, these entities, whatever you think they are. What's JS, Jonathan? What's that? I don't know what JS is, buddy. But I know that if you sit still enough, you don't need drugs. And what I think it is when somebody takes drugs is I think they're slowing down their mind, which you can do on your own. And the forces that are compelling you, oh, just saying. Oh, you have seen stuff and you're just saying? Okay, got you, Jonathan. So, yeah, a lot of people have, for sure. But when people take drugs, what they're doing is they're leaving themselves open for those thoughts and compulsions and the things that are causing them to want to take the drugs in the first place to come cascading and collapsing all around them. The fact is, if you meditate enough correctly, you'll be able to separate yourself from those things, and if you don't react to them, they may try to scare you. Whether that's an effect of your mind, whether it's something staring back at you that is spiritual and behind the void, trying to maintain its dominance and control, you decide. Is it entirely psychological or is it spiritual in nature? Your mind sees these things, and for me, I asked somebody to pray for me, and it went away immediately, and I never saw it again. It bothered me for about a week because after that experience, I kept seeing him for about a week. And even in my dreams, they would come and I'd have the strangest dreams that make little sense, but you know that there's something there in your own mind that's different, that seems to be staring back at you even in your dream. No doubt you're not alone, Jonathan. A lot of people would say that it's spiritual. Others might say it's just psychological. I don't know. There are those who've seen reptilian creatures appear beside them. Who am I to say if they saw them or not? All I can do is say, hey, you saw what you saw. There are those who've seen and heard the ghosts and the sounds and the knockings and demons and have cast out demons before. I know one other experience, though it wasn't mine, but I saw it. When I was in Florida and would evangelize a lot, we knocked on a lady's door, and the lady was very polite. She said, come on in. As soon as we mentioned Jesus, she stands up on her couch and she shouts at the top of her lungs, get out! And you just felt it. You didn't see anything. It was just so bizarre, such a screechy, high-pitched noise. Jonathan battled an imp in 4 different dreams back to back in the same exact setting just yesterday. Well, Jonathan, if you're battling that now, I suggest that you have some people pray for you. And definitely whatever you've done to invite it, you ought to search your own heart and life if there's anything there then you'll have to shun that, I think. If there's drugs involved or whatever. And I'm not saying there is. I have no idea. I don't know you well enough, buddy. So, if there's anything that you find that might have contributed to that, you should get rid of that. Because I know that the faces are scary. In my dreams, I would see the faces, the one-eyed creatures, cyclops, and then some of them would look like the Greys. Sitting right here where I am right now, I would see them. Not with my eyes, you see them in your head. You see them all around you, but they're just as real as what you see. Some people say it's the third eye. You decide. Yeah, thinking the same thing. Yeah. I do believe that the drugs can mimic the meditation, but not in the same way, because you don't get your control back. And they have more free reign to fight you, to scare you, to intimidate you. And the meditation in my mind, the first time I did it, I did with a little bit of intention to want to see whatever it was that was bothering me. Any other time I've done a meditation, I sit and maybe you've noticed if you've ever done this, just calm your mind. But the thoughts that try to give you compulsions, the thoughts that try to control you. No, I've never heard a physical voice or physically seen. The only time I physically saw something was when I was 7 years old, and I saw that wolf-like face at an adult's face level pop out of that closet. Saw the door open, saw a snout and a reddish-looking eye, snarled. I saw and heard that when I was 6 or 7 years old. Right as I was walking into somebody's house, my cousin's house. And it went back in, shut the door, and there's not even enough room for a person to stand in there. It's just like a utility closet with a washing machine and a dryer in there, but you have to stand right outside the closet. So how did I see that? I don't know. There's no logical explanation. And my 5-year-old, it's real close to the same age I was, saw the woman in red come and pick up the television off of her and saved her life. She remembered it for about 3 or 4 months as a 5-year-old. She can't remember it now, even though we've talked about it plenty of times. It's almost like those thoughts are blocked from us as we get older. It's really weird. I don't know. And I don't know why. I can't explain it. Hey, Hugh. Took this opportunity, Hugh, to just come out here at night because family is asleep, and I don't like to make videos at home because it'll probably wake them up. And it's raining outside, so I came to the park here. Oh gosh, yeah, Jonathan, that was frightening. I was scared of that house for years after that. I mean, for the next 5 or 10 years or something, I don't remember how long. I mean, well into my teens, I could remember it. It never bothered me or anything like that. But I never forgot it. So I came to this park here. It's raining. I'm sitting in my car. But I'm going to make a video and just talk about this right here at the same park where I saw whatever it was. And not just one. I saw probably couple dozen, probably, almost in a semicircle, like they were all watching me. It's very creepy. But I don't see them with my eye. I see them in my head, but they're just as real. It's like you're in two worlds at the same time. Like they're imposed upon each other. There's no way to prove it. There's no way to expect anybody to believe it. And it wouldn't bother me if you say, well, it is all just psychological. Okay, it may be. I have no way of proving it either way. I put up my BLM signs. Yeah, Hugh, I think I'm going to pass on the BLM science. So, Jonathan, what you said you saw an imp last night in your dreams, huh? 4 different dreams back to back in the same exact setting just yesterday. Yeah. Hugh's had some supernatural experiences. I don't think he wants to talk about them. So I'm not going to mention his experiences unless he wants to. um, but I never know what somebody has seen wasn't there. So I never ever tell somebody they have not seen something. How do you know? If you're not that person and you don't have their mind, how do you know what they saw and didn't see? However, meditation that I've noticed helps many times. Yeah, man only was able to destroy it by asking God for strength in the fight. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Hugh, you've mentioned, I think you don't mind if I mention this one, but you mentioned when they tried to kill you, how you fought with the devil, you know. And the people that you saw in your dreams die, some nuns, when you woke up, they were on TV dead. Huh. That's an interesting story right there. Hmm. I think that's, how do you meditate? Now, when you meditate, what you're not supposed to do is try to engage or want to see anything. That's willfulness. That is what my big mistake was the first time. Okay? All you're supposed to do is realize that you are not controlled by the impulses and the thoughts that are going through your head. You can sit back and realize that those thoughts that are going through your head and those impulses are not really you, that they were put there by your environment, by society, perhaps by spiritual entities at times. You decide. Yeah. Yeah, you saw what you saw there. You saw the devil that you were fighting, I think more than once. But when you meditate, you want to just calm down and feel your fingertips. That's how they do it on. That's what I got this from the Foundation for Human Understanding. Okay, that's his meditation. You can download it for free. Hey, Levi. But you can download it for free, and it'll show you how to just feel the ends of your fingers. Realize that you are inside of a body. Okay? Realize that the thoughts going through your head are not your own. And just sit back and don't react to anything that goes through your head. Don't look for anything. Don't be willful about it. Just sit back and realize that you don't have to be affected. You don't have to be angry when they affect you. You don't have to be sad when they affect you. You don't have to be anything. You don't have to you don't have to desire your drugs or your sex or whatever. And it does give you some relief. And the more you do it, the more relief you get. Now, I did not say that I've mastered it or anything like that. But every time those thoughts plague me or really bother me, a lot of times I can get control of them just like that. Just by realizing that, and not even really, control is not the right word. You don't want to control them. You just want to realize that you don't have to react to them. That a compulsion isn't really you. Though at some point, some things are. Some things are chemical shortages, and I did begin some medicines that really helped also. So I'm not against any of that. Don't think that I'm against all medicines. At night, I took a thyroid pill. Doctor said, "Wow, your thyroid levels are really low." They just did, regular blood test on You go to the doctor once a year so you don't lose your insurance. They did a random blood test kind of thing. They said, your thyroid's really low. I said, really? She said, why don't you try this thyroid pill? I promise you, I took one thyroid pill, and 3 hours later, it was like somebody turned the lights on in the room. It's like I'm actually scared not to take it because, like, just you feel so much more depressed when you don't take it. And I take one other pill too, and it really, really helps. So I don't like to be crazy about pills. I don't like to tell people to take pills. They're bad for you overall. But if they really help you, then do it. And be aware, because I tried the first one. Gosh, it really was bad. I said, get me off of this now. And you have to taper off of it. That's the bad thing. I just took it for a couple days. It really affected me in negative ways. So you have to be real careful with those psychological meds. You always have somebody to help you while you're doing it. And don't keep any weapons around you, during that time. Wait till you stabilize and you're feeling better before you get your weapons back. But interestingly, during that transition time, I never saw any sort of entities or anything like that. Only, I'm talking about the transition with the medicines. I only did it that time when I meditated. That was it. And then for about the week that followed, it's like they were in my head, and instead of learning to not react to them, it's like they had more power over me for a while because I tried to intervene with them instead of not react with them. And by that, I just mean that I tried to look at them. That's it. That's all it took, What you're supposed to do is just realize, don't look for them. Don't try to make out any faces in your head. Don't try to see it. Just close your eyes. Look at the little dots in your head and realize that that's like a screen, and it's like I don't know what the words are. These things are hard to put in words, and even the guy that does the meditation, Roy Masters, he says these things are hard to put in words, and I see what he's saying. So you just realize that that's the programming in your head. And it's not unusual that whatever has made you feel compulsion to do different things will manifest on that screen. You just don't look for it. If it does, just don't react. Just feel your fingertips is all you have to do. And by that, I just mean lay them down to the side of your body and just realize you are not those thoughts. Your mind is a machine, and so it's always taking programming in. And your thoughts that you think are yours belong to this world and its system. Everyone on earth is controlled by that system to some degree or another. Most people are controlled entirely by it. And if someone does not learn to separate from that system, they'll never see truth. If you don't learn to separate yourself from and understand that the thoughts that you think are your own, that you think you have willfully decided, you didn't decide anything. And if you don't understand the difference, you never learn that difference. You'll never see any truth your whole life. That's why with Hugh's story, we go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people trying to get him to see the reality of the murders, the dead kids, the dead wives. And they can't see it. Because they're a part of the same system, part of the same environment, part of that same world system that is operating in the murderers themselves. So they can't help. They can't even see it. And even worse, they mock. When you expose evil You see it in them mocking back. That's the evil mocking back inside of them. When you take on evil, when you say, hey, dead wives, dead children, I'm going to do something about that, and you try to expose it, when you see the mocking and you see the people who can't tell truth, you realize that that spirit is operating in them also, and that it's mocking you for exposing it. And until you understand that, you'll always be part of them. You'll be part of the child killers. You'll be part of the pedophiles. Pete said I was just talking about something similar like Inception. Is that a movie? I think I heard of a movie called Inception. You'll have to clarify for me, Pete, what you're talking about there. Pete's a good friend. I like Pete. He sent me some vegetables to try to grow in my garden. I didn't have any luck though. I put them all in cups and only one of them grew. I had one, so I planted it in my yard. That was the only one that grew though. I got the Miracle Grow dirt. I watered them all, and only one of them grew. And I have no idea why. I do not have a green thumb. Definitely not a farmer. Oh my. So, hey, Stephen Gray. Stephen Gray, the last time I saw you, I think, was in 4th grade, buddy. It's been quite a long time, man. Are you the same Stephen Gray I went to school with in Glendale? Or are you a different Stephen Gray? I think you're the same one I went to school with. So, if anybody wants to tell their story, go ahead, tell it. Tell me what you saw, or tell me what experiences you've had. I've already talked about Hugh's experiences, some of them. There's some I don't think he really wants me to talk about. I'll let him decide if he wants to talk about the other ones. But he did when they poisoned him and he was in the hospital, he saw the devil or a devil or whatever it was and wrestled it and fought it. And the devil said something about some nuns being killed, and when he woke up, those nuns were dead. They were on TV. The exact same ones. And the same number. I definitely believe we're in a fight. And that's why when I see Hugh talk about the things he does, that he's involved in a battle that's bigger than just flesh and blood. Because the things that happen to him are not normal things that other people generally experience. So I realize he's part of something bigger, on a bigger frame reference that we don't fully understand. So the idea from the programmers, get implanted in your mind and it creates our reality. Yeah, exactly, Pete. That's very true. If we don't separate from the programming and everything that is causing us to think the things we think and to do the things we do, we'll always be a part of that system. Pete, I think you can see that. That's why when you saw the need for somebody in Pakistan, you were able to help. I don't know very many people at all that have seen Hugh's truth and said, I want to help you, Hugh. I want to expose the murderers, the people that murder kids. Instead, what they do is they usually laugh and they blame the victim. What's that sound like? That sounds like the entity that is causing the murderers, the murders, mocking back. And I recognize that every time I see it. And I know that the person saying it doesn't even realize that something is working through him to say it. And is not alone, because it's the same reaction that you'll see in 100 different people in 100 different places. And they'll use the same words and they'll have the same attitudes. That tells me that there's something common among them all. Hugh says, the police told me to forget the murders of my wives and leave it to God. He was a A black officer in charge of the Johnson City Police Department. That's in Tennessee. Do you think they told George Floyd's family to just leave it to God and turn a blind eye to Floyd's murder? Yeah, they didn't do that there, did they? That's how we know that the same spiritual force that is murdering wives also had something to do with Floyd's murder. It's the same entity working through the same types of people. The same people that go back to JFK, that murdered JFK, are the same people, the same forces that killed Jimmy Hoffa, that killed those kids in Oakland County. Pete says, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but the pedos run everything right now. Yeah, Pete, they don't just run everything. We got their names. The Osborne family that first abducted Hugh when he was 4 years old. And Chase Osborne, the former governor of Michigan, in his family's basement that would torture and murder kids. They run your FBI right now. Mike Osborne runs the sex crimes division of the FBI. Think of that for a second. Gina Osborne is also part of that in the FBI. The programming is so deep you can't break them from the spell. All those police swear oaths to protect the pedos. Well, Pete, it's not all of them, but there's sizable forces that are part. They do help and protect each other more than they help and protect people in some cases. And those that are part of it definitely help each other more. One thing I want to separate is to make sure that people understand that they're not Freemasons that are organizing it. Even if they belong to a fraternal order, it's not their fraternal order that is in charge of what's going on or orchestrating the murders. That's Alex Jones giving us that information. And Alex Jones is part of the CIA group that's causing this. That's why he's misdirecting and coming against the founders of your country. Yeah, well, I don't see it's definitely not the Freemasons, and it's an important distinction. The Freemasons are the people that helped found your country. They're the ones that kicked out the King George, and they're the ones that helped write the Constitution. And they believe in the mysteries, but it's not the mysteries that are the problem. However, there are those that use the mysteries also. Okay? They're not the Freemasons. They're the other guys. You ever notice you could talk about the Freemasons all day long and nobody cares? But if you talk about those guys, the guys that supposedly the Germans didn't like, oh yeah, you talk about those guys and they'll kick you off real fast. Yeah, the Freemasons are the targets of those people. Albert Pike's statue was recently destroyed for a reason. Albert Pike was not the guy that they tell you he was. Albert Pike was actually a very good person. And his family has come out and said that all this stuff that they're making up is just complete lies about him. Jones is a shield, but I'm saying judges, CIA, FBI, all of them are trafficking kids. Yeah. Yeah, Hugh is living proof of that. There were some, they even kill lawyers. When he does get a lawyer to try to defend his case, they murder the lawyers. That's happened twice now in Hugh's life. Even one of the doctors, 5 minutes after he left their office, they murdered the doctor. Just like one of the judge or the lawyers. Yeah, they're very connected. These are, they have to have some pretty high connections. And that's what Hugh's story is all about. 3 times. 3 times. Imagine that. Not only have they tried to murder Hugh several times, at least, been drugged a bunch of times. He was drugged and put on Flight 255 on the airplane, and then the airplane itself was downed on I-94 just outside of Detroit, leaving Wayne International Airport. Look up Flight 255 and they'll tell you that one little girl survived. But the other guy that survives in the comments right now. But you don't hear about him. What kind of organization do you have to down an airline? Take out the pilots and to make sure, and poison people at the airport before it happens. I don't think I could do that if I wanted to. I don't want to. Just for the record. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's rigged, but it's not that we can't overcome it. It's that more people have to see. They have to separate from their thoughts a little bit. They have to realize that this system, most of the things they decide is being controlled by the same people as the murderers, the same spirit, the same attitude that kills the kids, that mocks the victims. I've had relatives of mine mock Hugh because you just mentioned pedophilia. Somebody also did it to me yesterday on the internet. I won't even tell you where, but he's not in my Facebook group or anything. So not really a part of my life or anything. But, as soon as you mention the pedophile victims, that spirit is aroused somehow. And they'll mock the victims rather than offer their help or their condolences. Yeah, the CIA is all about selling your drugs, making money. The CIA was invented to protect the government, not you. To protect their own drug rings, to protect their own drug rings and their own pedophile rings. That's why your CIA exists. And it doesn't exist to protect the American people. And Hugh's living proof of that. The same CIA set a drug ring up on his own farm. And then when Hugh exposed the drug ring, then the names of the people that were on it were obfuscated and planned into other massive disasters, I guess, or man-made disasters, events. You had Timothy McVeigh and Nichols that purchased drugs from the CIA drug ring that was operating on Hugh's property. And then you got McVeigh and Nichols in the Oklahoma City bombing. Were they the exact same people? Who knows? But we do know that if you Google McVeigh and Nichols, you're going to get the Oklahoma City bombing. You're not going to get anything about what happened to Hugh, are you? Yeah, that spells strong, Pete. That force that seems to where you can't even get one person to realize how important it is to stand up to pedophilia. When you mention the murders, they run the other direction, or they mock, or they call you a pedophile because you were the victims of pedophiles. You understand that is a strong delusion. The Bible says in the last day God will send a strong delusion. It's already here. I hardly know anybody that's not deluded. Massively deluded. I don't know anybody that says, I'm going to stand up and expose the pedophiles. Instead, they join in with the enemies. And they'll expose the Freemasons, and the Freemasons had nothing to do with it. And they'll stand up and they'll say the Illuminati did it. It's real easy to blame a group of people that you don't know who they are, and you can't put a face on them. The people who gave you your freedom, there is no Illuminati today. It doesn't even exist. There was a group called the Illuminati back in 1776. It's disbanded as far as I know. But I'm tired of seeing people blame the victim for the crime. We can't fix this country unless people realize that those thoughts are being put into them by the Alex Joneses. Jonathan says the worst battle that I had was actually in the physical. I was at a friend's house around 2 to 3 a.m. when she nudged me on the shoulder in a dark room to get my attention. I had headphones on, and she said, I had to hit the see more button. Wow, you wrote quite a bit there. Hold on there. Okay. And she said, did you hear that? So I listened, and that's when it all started. I heard something somewhat far that sounded like the floor in the kitchen was creaking. Then the creaking got louder and louder when someone walking through the house until the creaking was happening right by the other side of her door. By that time, we were both frozen like statues. She spoke to me, but I couldn't respond. I'm sure you meant respond, not respawn. Fear had taken hold on me, so she turned on the light, but it was too late. I was frozen, shaking head to toe, cold sweats through 5 blankets, muscle spasms throughout my whole body, and voiced in my head, speaking to me in languages I couldn't even understand. At that point, I had given up and fighting on my own, so all I did was think to myself, God help me, and bam, back to normal. My friend looked so baffled, it was unlike any expression I've ever seen. I was smoking weed. There you go. What'd I tell you? Because that's what weed does, is it sort of separates you from your body, but it puts them in control. It separates your thoughts a little bit, but not in the same way. It's doing something different. And I can't put the right words on it to tell you what it's doing. It's not the same thing as meditating. It's like it's like a replacement, a fake replacement for meditating. Because in fact, what you're doing is you're avoiding the pain. When you meditate, you allow the pain to come cascading down on you. But when you're smoking something or drugging or alcoholing yourself, you're avoiding the pain even more. So you're giving more power to the thing you're trying to avoid. When you properly meditate, what you're doing is you are not reacting. You see, the act of smoking is a reaction. The act of taking a drug is a reaction to the pain. It's trying to get away from the pain. So therefore, they're controlling you through their actions. When you meditate and you just sit still, the thoughts have no control. They have absolutely no power over you if you can learn not to react. And that was the problem right there with this, what happened there, Jonathan. Smoking weed prior to this happening, plus had messaged with the Ouija board that same year. Okay. That's definitely something you don't want to toy with. Pete says, yes, God is what sends the delusion because they don't love the truth. That's right. Weed, cannabis, yeah, all out of the pit. Yeah, maybe that's why it smells like it does. To separate yourself is to not react to the pain, to realize that you don't have to be driven to the drugs. But when you react, when you go to the drugs to deaden the pain, you give that thing power. In the end, it'll completely destroy you because you can't run forever. Your body can only take so much. Don't run from pain. And I mean the mental anguish pain. And I don't mean there's nothing wrong with taking a medicine, but don't do it because you just can't live with the pain anymore and you're running away. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Understand it as a science. If you're working logically, if you're working in the realm of physical interaction with the medicine, you're okay. But you don't want to react and say, I can't take the pain of this life, so I'm going to smoke this so I don't have to think about it anymore. You always want to have your thoughts. But understand which thoughts are yours, and understand how most thoughts, almost everything that goes through your mind is not you, but it's that system. And that's the danger of drugs, you know. And by no means am I casting judgment or dispersion. By no means am I trying to condemn you or anything like that. Just telling the logical reality of what it does. There's a million ways we run from pain. We might take drugs. We might drink alcohol. We might go get laid a million times. There's so many ways to try to get rid of the pain. Some people just eat. Instead, when you meditate, let those thoughts gather around you and feel and experience the pain of them. Don't run from them. Just allow them to try to torment you, but don't react. I don't know, Pete. It's a good question. I put them in little plastic styrofoam cups with some Miracle Grow. Put the seeds in them, put a little water, and set them outside, and only one of them came up. I don't know why. They were out in the sun, you know. Put them right out in the middle of the yard where they'd get sun for, I don't know, probably at least most of the day. At least probably 75-85% of the day. They had I don't know the answer, Pete. I know it rained. I think maybe they got soaked too much. Yeah, beef is expensive around here. Yeah, it is. Beef has really gone up. We did stock up on meat. I decided to go ahead and start using my vegetables. I haven't had any more problems with getting vegetables, and I haven't even seen any of them really hard to get. So I decided just to stock up on canned meats and not worry so much about the fruits and vegetables. Get on a skateboard and scream white power is from God, and it matters. Oh, goodness. I guess I posted on there, I forwarded on Facebook somebody else's post that they put there at the Custer statue in Monroe, Michigan. You've probably seen it since you're from that, not too far from that area, Hugh, but I've seen it before too. And there's a black guy dressed up with a Confederate flag, and he said, wrote on a sign, "Black lives don't matter." I feel confident that most likely he's either paid or a part of that organization trying to get more people to show up there and try to take down the Custer statue. Now, my cousin doesn't think so. He said he's just using reverse psychology or whatever, but I would bet money on it. I'd bet money that they're that he was paid to go there. All right, Jonathan. Nice to have you along. So take care. Oh, man. Well, I think I'm going to hang it up here. So this was interesting. Unless anybody else wants to tell their story before I leave. Anybody want to say something about their experiences they've had, supernatural experiences? Have you ever seen anything physically or as I did in your mind's eye that you know is just as real as what you see, but there's no way to prove it? You sticking up for the Indians that killed General Custer, yeah. But just seemed like the right night to say this. It's raining, it's dark. I came to the exact place where I saw those things. In my mind, they looked like the Greys, most of them, and they all just seemed like they were just staring at me, like they're trying to analyze what I'm going to do. But they didn't seem like they had power to do anything. It seemed like they only had power to watch. Kind of like the word watchers. My name, Greg, comes from the word watchers, incidentally. The egregori. It's the Greek word, or is it from the Septuagint or was it from the Hebrew? I can't even remember now. That's how bad my memory is. But the egregori was the watchers back in Genesis. Actually, it's not even in Genesis. The watchers is from Enoch, first Enoch. Yeah, you get a lot of weird looks if you say it's great to be straight. If people are offended by that at this point, let them be offended. It's interesting, Hugh, this world and how whatever this entity is, whatever you are fighting, is in control of all of them. Whether it was Satan himself or whatever the heck it is, it's definitely prevalent because you see the same mocking, the same scorning, the same blaming of the victims by people who think they're righteous. And I see that as some sort of commonality among them that almost certainly has to be spiritual in nature. And if it's not spiritual in nature, then it's, what's the word? Maybe hypnotic. A hypnotic force. If we were going to say, keep it completely in the physical and not in the supernatural, it has to be some sort of hypnotic force. Well, I'm going to hang it up here. See you guys.